Well, welcome to the 700 Club. The U.S. military has released a video which it says shows Iran was involved in the explosions on 2 ships near the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is denying it, even though it has used mines against oil tankers in the past.
The latest incident comes at a time of rising tensions with Iran as it appears ready to resume enriching uranium. Jennifer Wishon brings us the story from Washington.
Here it is. Pentagon officials say this video captured by Navy surveillance proves Iran is behind the explosions that rocked 2 oil tankers in the Middle East Thursday. The footage, officials say, shows Iran's Revolutionary Guard pulling alongside a targeted ship to remove evidence, an unexploded limpet mine attached to the ship's hull by a magnet. The attacks are similar to those officials say Iran carried out in May against 4 commercial ships in the region. This time, Japanese and Norwegian-owned oil tankers were the targets. 1 ship burned for hours and is at risk of sinking. The USS Bainbridge rushed in to help, and now another destroyer, the USS Mason, is en route to provide backup. Iran denies responsibility, calling it an unfounded claim in America's Iranophobic campaign. But Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the intelligence is clear. He accuses Iran of lashing out because it wants the Trump administration's crippling economic sanctions lifted. But he says that's no excuse.
No economic sanctions entitle the Islamic Republic to attack innocent civilians, disrupt global oil markets, and engage in nuclear blackmail.
And now Iran is just weeks away from resuming enriching uranium closer to weapons-grade levels if European leaders don't offer new terms to the deal.
There are elements within the Iranian regime that do not want the U.S. and Iran to ever come to a bargaining table.
The Islamic Republic says it's already quadrupled its production of low-enriched uranium. But U.S. sanctions have cut off Iran's ability to trade its excess uranium and heavy water abroad, putting a desperate Tehran on course to violate its terms of the nuclear deal. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
Well, this has now become the hottest spot on the planet. It was a proxy war in Yemen between Iran and Saudi Arabia, but if they take on the oil tankers going through the Strait of Hormuz and try to choke off the world supply of oil, this could really be a trigger point for a shooting war. If there was ever a time to pray for peace in the Middle East, it is right now. In other news, President Trump is losing one of his most trusted White House aides. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders says she's leaving her post at the end of June for what she described as her most important job, being a mom to her 3 children. The president praised Sanders when he announced her departure.
She's done an incredible job, but we've been through a lot together, and she's tough, but she's good.
This has been the honor of a lifetime, the opportunity of a lifetime. I couldn't be prouder to have had the opportunity to serve my country, and particularly to work for this president.
Trump also praised Sanders and tweeted he hopes she decides to run for governor of Arkansas. Sanders says she wouldn't dismiss the possibility because she learned a long time ago never to rule anything out. Well, from the White House to Capitol Hill, where major backlash exists from both parties against the president after he told ABC News in an exclusive interview that he would accept help from a foreign country if it offered intelligence on campaign rivals during the 2020 election. But as Abigail Robertson reports, some Republicans are defending the president.
Republican lawmakers are playing a lot of defense here on the Hill, responding to the president's comments that he would consider accepting information from foreign governments about political opponents.
The president has gone through this and acted properly all along the way, while you have another entity, another presidential campaign on the Democrat side that did the complete opposite.
But other Republicans say there's only one answer to this question.
The right answer is no.
Senator Lindsey Graham cautions he doesn't want the president sending signals to encourage this.
And I'm hoping some of my Democratic colleagues will take more seriously the fact that Christopher Steele was a foreign agent paid for by the Democratic Party to gather dirt on Trump.
Adding foreign influence in our elections is growing, not lessening.
I'm a little astonished at the outrage that I've heard, because I didn't hear equal outrage when Hillary Clinton and the DNC paid a foreign spy to gather information from Russia.
But Democrats didn't hold back.
This president is still open for business. If the Russians have some negative information about an opponent, that to me is outrageous. I don't know what planet he's living on.
The president's comments, again, are undemocratic, un-American, disgraceful.
There's nothing wrong with listening. If somebody
Calling the comments extraordinary, even for President Trump.
I think it is absolutely essential that we send a message to our adversaries that intervening in our democratic process is against the law and not appropriate.
Senator Warner, one of the heads of the Intelligence Committee, wants to cut through any confusion on this subject by sponsoring the FIRE Act, which would require presidential campaigns to report any offers of assistance from foreign influences immediately to the FBI. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thanks, Abigail. Anti-Semitism and Christian persecution are on the rise around the world. Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem on a new organization that's challenging the church to confront these acts of hate.
From synagogue shootings in the United States to Christians imprisoned in Iran or China, Jews and Christians are under assault in today's world.
You mostly have Jewish organizations fighting anti-Semitism, and then you have Christian groups that are fighting the persecution of Christians. And I always felt that there was a connection between the two, that there's something that Jews and Christians have in common, and that makes us targets of hatred.
Hoping to bring the two forces together, Suzanne Kokkonen has launched Hope for Persecuted Peoples. For 10 years, she directed Christian Friends of Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust memorial.
And now she's had the opportunity to break out of Yad Vashem and to bring the message of Yad Vashem all over the world.
So this initiative really is about both fighting anti-Semitism with education, but then also asking the church to look at the persecuted Christians. What are we supposed to be doing at this time?
Kokkonen believes the church in the West has become too comfortable.
This has made us like sleeping beauties. At the same time in Africa, Asia, Middle East, and now Asia is especially rising as a major persecutor of Christians. And we have more or less ignored the suffering of these people. So it's kind of a divided church also in that way.
And the Jewish organizations are reminding the church about the persecution of the Christians around the world. And the Christian agencies and ministries are much more silent. And I don't think this is right.
Kokkonen sees a solution by combining prayer and action.
Prayer is the number one, but then also all of these governments that allow the persecution, they certainly are trading with us, and we should be influencing our parliaments, our politicians, our nations to take a stand for these persecuted people.
The launch brought together Christians and Jewish leaders.
It's a new day. We saw it the last 10 to 15 years. I think it's beautiful to see Jews and Christians coming together for a noble cause.
And I think that's a common mission for us, Jews and Christians, and that's what we want to actually launch here today.
Kokkonen also calls on the church to prepare and pray against the likely increase of persecution in the West. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
An important reminder to pray against the persecuted church. Gordon?
Well, the Jewish organizations have been raising the banner here for some time, saying that there is ongoing specific persecution of Christian communities throughout the Middle East. They've been doing that for a long time, and particularly during the genocide of ISIS. They were the ones who really were pointing it out before anyone else. So this isn't new, but the Christian church absolutely needs to wake up that how much persecution of Christians is happening internationally. With the re-election of Prime Minister Modi in India, are we going to see even more violence against Christian communities? What's currently happening in China is absolutely staggering, where the persecution coming down on the church is incredible. It's the greatest it's been in my lifetime. And then you couple that with the bombings in Sri Lanka, the ongoing attacks in Indonesia, the ongoing attacks throughout Asia, in sub-Saharan Africa. You see these things happening. We have to stand up with our brothers and sisters. We have to say enough. And as a country, that needs to be part of our foreign policy. The good news is the current administration is quite sympathetic to it. Now, can we put some teeth to these things and say more than just, you know, our best wishes, but can we make it a fundamental of our foreign policy? There has to be religious freedom for everyone around the world.